Welcome to Looplearnings, and in this video I'm going to do VBA coding for the supplier form. If you haven't watched the previous video in which we have done the VBA coding for purchase form, I would strongly recommend you to do that, and the link for that video, and in fact all the rest of the 17 videos, previous videos for this series, are in the description below. What we are doing, we are making a POS system, and this is the video number 18. If you haven't subscribed yet to the Looplearnings channel, I would strongly urge you to do that, and to get the valuable content, and hit the bell icon so you get notification whenever I upload any video. All right, let's get started with today's topic. It's going to be a short one, I believe, not a long video. So what we have here is a user interface, perhaps a form for maintaining and managing the supplier information. Now, supplier holds a very important role in doing business, particularly when you are purchasing something and selling it. So from where you are purchasing, you're purchasing from supplier. So as a business, as a grocery shop, as a supermarket, whatever you want to call it, you want to maintain the respective suppliers information, and that's where you will provide the supplier name, their contact information, which country they are based in, and then one important information is banking and licensing information. That's also very important to get that, because you want to do transactions with them. If you have credit with them, credit terms with them, that information you can feed in, so that will definitely help you in conducting your business effectively. All right, so let's go ahead and start doing the VBA coding. Before we jump into VBA editor, we need to think about the logics. So we have two buttons here, save and mark inactive. Save button basically will be used to actually create a new supplier record and save it, and then it will be used to update the supplier's information. So for example, the IBAN number or account number or license number or contact information, whatever needs to be updated. So once the updates are made, those updates should be saved with the save button itself. So that's what we want to achieve. And then mark inactive button will be used to actually mark the supplier inactive, so it doesn't show up in the list when you're doing the transaction. So this is also very important. Sometimes you part away from that supplier, and you have to make sure that that supplier is marked inactive if you wish to do so. Now let's do coding first behind the save button. Now the logics for the save button is, of course, we want to have a if. First logic will put in if there is already status, that means the supplier is already created. So if the status is inactive, then no update should be done, nothing should be done. Otherwise, the if the supplier status is active, then if there is any update, then those updates should be made. And then after that, we have to look for the supplier name, the contact person, contact number, perhaps country is important. Then if we want, we can keep this as an optional, but I would like to have credit days as a mandatory field, because remember, if you would have watched the previous video, in that video I did mention that we take the supplier's information, and from there we take the credit days information. So we have to provide these credit days. So if it is not a credit customer, then it has to be 0. Okay, so that's very important information. So that we will keep it mandatory. Rest we will not keep it mandatory. It's up to you. If you are building an application for someone, and if they require to have these fields mandatory, then you make them mandatory, otherwise you leave them. That's it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the VBA coding. So we'll go to the design view, we'll select the save button, and we'll go to the property sheet event tab. I'll click on ellipsis ... and I will double click on code builder. Here we are in VBA editor. The first thing I would like to do is the code for the error handling, right? That's very important to do it. So the first logic we are going to build in, if the status is inactive, then no update should be done, nothing should be done. Okay, so that we will make it first. If me dot status dot value is equal to inactive, then do cmd dot beep message box, through a message box. The message box should be the updates to this supplier record cannot be made as the supplier is marked inactive. Okay, so that's the message box. Again, you can customize it, you can, according to your needs, you can give that message. So that's the first logic we're going to build. The second logic is, if me dot status dot value is equal to active, so if it is active already, then what should be done? Well, then first of all, whatever updates are made, you just save them. Okay, to cmd dot save, to cmd dot beep message box. So the information will be the updates to the supplier record are made successfully. Alrighty, and this will be VB information, and the heading for the message box also information. Now, oops, this is else if. Okay, this is else if. Now we are done with this. Now let's check these. So we are going to check supplier, we're going to check contact person, contact number, country, we're going to check the credit days. If any of these fields are empty, then throw a message, and otherwise you just proceed and create a supplier. Okay, all right, so else if is null, so that's how you check if any of this field is empty. So is null is the operator. So is null me dot supplier dot value is equal to true, then to cmd dot beep message box, please provide the supplier information to proceed further. Okay, and this should be VB critical because it's an error, and the heading for the message box should be information. Now we will look for the contact person. Okay, else if is null me dot contact person dot value is equal to true, then to cmd dot beep message box, please provide the contact person information to proceed further. Okay, and it will be VB critical, and it will be information. One thing I forgot, we need to set focus on these fields as immediately after we have checked this field. So because that's for the user experience, so you want to make user experience as smooth as possible. So if this error is occurred, and user will click OK, and then immediately after that the cursor should automatically move to the contact person field. So that's how you do it, me dot contact person dot set focus. Okay, and for this field also we will do it. So me dot supplier dot set focus. All right, now let's move on and check for the contact number. If else if is null, me dot contact person dot value is equal to true, then to cmd dot beep. What is happening? This is what happened when you do coding after a week. Message box, please provide the contact person information to proceed further. Okay, VB critical and information, me dot contact person dot set focus. Else if is null. Now what we are checking? We are checking for country, right? Me dot country, not count, country dot value is equal to true, then to cmd dot beep, message box, please provide the country name to proceed further. Okay, VB critical and information. We'll set focus again, me dot country dot set focus. After that we are going to check credit days information. So if it is a cash customer, the credit days will be 0. Not customer, supplier. If you're doing business with that particular supplier in the cash, so the credit days will be 0. If you're doing the business on the credit terms, then whatever the credit days limit, like 10 days, 30 days, 45 days, 90 days, that information will go on. So that's why it's important to have that information. So if it is a cash business with that supplier, then 0 credit days. It's very important to have that information. Me dot credit days dot value is equal to true, then to cmd dot beep, message box, please provide the credit days information to proceed further. Okay, we be critical and information. We are going to set focus on that as well. Now since we have checked all the conditions that we want to build in the application in this particular form, if any of these fields if all of these are false, then go ahead and create a supplier, right? Create the supplier information. So that's what we are going to do, and that will be happening with else. Else if all of this is false, then what should be done? Well, then we should have created on, created by status, and status state automatically filled in. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Me dot created on dot value is equal to now. So it is basically created today. Then we have created by. Now created by name information will automatically come in. There are multiple ways to bring this fetch this information from the database, but the simplest one, which always I use it, I fetch this information from the dashboard. So when we log on, of course somebody has logged on and their name is already here, so we can take this information and we can put it here automatically. So that we are going to do. So what I'll do, me dot created by dot value is equal to forms. From which form? Well, dashboard F. Make sure these spellings are correct, otherwise you're going to get error. And then on this form, from which field you want to take the information. From this field we want to take the information. So we'll go to the other tab and we'll copy the name of the field just to avoid any error. So that's where, from where we will get the created by information. Okay, and then the next one will be status dot value is equal to, so status would be active. This is a newly created supplier. Okay, then me dot status date dot value is equal to now. That's it. That should be done. After that, do cmd dot save, do cmd dot beep message box. The supplier has been created successfully. Okay, this will be VB information, and then information. Oops. Right, that is it. So that's the code for the save button. So we're going to save it, we're going to debug it. Debugging is very important. So if in case you have any you have done any mistake, that should be covered in that mistake. Right, so we're done with the save button. I'll close the VB editor. We have actually created the supplier. Now you can go ahead and actually perform any transaction if you would like to do so. Now what next is we want to do VB coding for the inactive button. Now mark inactive mean you are no longer doing business with that supplier for any reason, right? So in that case, if the supplier is marked, if the business is not continue with that supplier, we need to do it. And for the VB coding for this button, first logic is, of course, we want to have some sort of information here, then we can proceed, and then we will be looking for the status. If the status is already inactive, then this is the second logic I'm talking about. If the status is already inactive, then we'll say, hey, it's already marked inactive, why you're trying to do so again, right? So that we will do, and after that we will throw a confirmation message to the user, hey, do you really want to mark this supplier as inactive? And user will have to click on yes, and then it will be marked inactive, otherwise it will not. So let's go ahead and do the VB coding for that. And I've selected the mark inactive button. You'll go to the event tab, on click event, ellipsis, ... code builder. Let's copy the error handling code to make things easy. So on error, resume next, and here it is. So the first logic we are going to build is if is null, me dot supplier id dot value is equal to true, then do cmd dot beep, throw a message box, please select the supplier in order to perform this action. Okay, and it should be VB critical, and the information should be the heading of message box. Okay, next, else if me dot status dot value is equal to inactive. So if the status is already inactive, then what needs to be done? Well, throw a message box again. This time you say the supplier is already marked inactive, and therefore this action cannot be performed. Okay, VB critical and information. Else, now we have looked at these two conditions. Then if those are false, then what needs to be done? Well, throw a message box, confirmation message box to the user. Hey, do you really want to mark this supplier as inactive? And user will have to click yes. And to get that functionality, what we need is dim response as integer if well, there is no condition of if, so we'll simply go to the response is equal to message box parenthesis open, do you really want to mark this supplier inactive, question mark, oops, question mark, okay, comma, VB yes no plus VB question information, parenthesis close. Now with this code, this 2 line of code, what user will get? A message box, a pop-up for the confirmation, and that message box will have 2 buttons, yes and no. Okay, and user will have to click either on yes, either on no, and then accordingly the transaction will proceed. So if user will click on yes, if response is equal to VB yes, then if the response is VB, if the user clicked on yes, then what happens? Well, then simply mark the status as inactive, simple as that. So me dot status dot value is equal to inactive. Okay, me dot status date dot value is equal to now, and then give a message box saying the selected supplier has been marked inactive. That's the confirmation again. So VB information and information, okay, else do nothing. So if the user will click on no, then do nothing. And that's the code, ladies and gentlemen, for these 2 buttons. Okay, so what we did, we basically did the coding for save and inactive button. Let's do a micro testing. So please provide the supplier information. So see, the cursor is automatically going on. Please select the supplier in order to perform this action. So both of them are working. Of course, in every video I say we will do the user acceptance testing videos later on. We will certainly have to make some changes in our code or perhaps in our structure. We will get to know in the testing phase, and those videos will be coming up separately. What next is, of course, I'll do VB coding for something else, but for now this is it, and I hope you have learned something from this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do that. That would be appreciated. And thank you very much for watching these videos. I really appreciate it. I get encouragement to make more such videos, so appreciate it. And thank you very much again, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.